I pulled into the circular driveway of Miguel's desert mansion, my dusty Honda Civic looking like a rust stain against the backdrop of gleaming Mercedes and BMWs. The Phoenix sun beat down mercilessly on the red tile roof, and through the wrought-iron gates, I could already hear the familiar sounds of the Navarro family's annual summer barbecue, laughter that carried just a little too much performance, the clink of expensive glassware, and Miguel's booming voice holding court somewhere in the sprawling backyard. I sat in my car for a moment longer than necessary, adjusting the collar of my plain button-down shirt. Through the passenger window, I caught a glimpse of myself in the side mirror, 33 years old, unremarkable in every way that mattered to my family. Dark hair that needed a trim, reading glasses perched on my nose, and the kind of face that blended into any crowd. Perfect for my line of work, terrible for family gatherings. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you. Eli? Aunt Rosa's voice cut through the desert air as I finally made my way through the backyard gate. She approached with her arms spread wide, her jewelry catching the afternoon light like a disco ball. "Me, Joe, you're so late. We thought maybe you weren't coming." The way she said it suggested they'd been hoping exactly that. "Traffic was heavy coming from downtown," I said, accepting her brief, perfume-heavy embrace. It wasn't entirely a lie, though I'd actually spent the extra hour in a Starbucks parking lot, reviewing case files on my encrypted laptop. The backyard stretched before me like something from a lifestyle magazine. Miguel had outdone himself this year. The infinity pool reflected the desert mountains in the distance, while a professional-grade outdoor kitchen dominated one corner of the patio. Servers in crisp white shirts moved between clusters of relatives, offering drinks and appetizers from silver trays. The whole scene reeked of money, new money, the kind that needed to be displayed and admired. "There he is," Miguel's voice boomed across the patio. My older brother strode toward me with the confidence of a man who'd never met a room he couldn't command. At 36, Miguel had the kind of presence that drew attention: broad shoulders, perfectly styled hair, and a smile that could sell ice to an Eskimo. Today he wore a linen shirt that probably cost more than my monthly rent, and his wrist sported a watch that gleamed like a small sun. "Little brother?" He pulled me into a backslapping hug that felt more like a wrestling move. "Look at you, same old Eli. Still shopping at Target?" The nearby relatives chuckled politely. I forced a smile and stepped back, my eyes automatically scanning the crowd. 23 people total, I counted. Extended family, a few business associates. Miguel's wife Danielle holding court near the pool. My sister Carmen sat at a shaded table with her 10-year-old son Julian, both of them looking as out of place as I felt. "Carmen." I made my way over to the only genuine smile I'd see all day. My younger sister stood and hugged me properly, no performance required. "I was starting to worry you'd chicken out," she said softly, her voice warm with affection. Carmen had inherited our mother's artistic soul, along with her inability to hide her emotions. At 30, she was still the family's designated peacekeeper, though I could see the strain of it in the lines around her eyes. "Are you Uncle Eli?" Julian looked up from his sketch pad, pencil still moving across the paper. "Mom says you work for the government. That sounds boring." "Julian," Carmen warned, but I held up a hand. "It's okay." I crouched down to his level, noting he was drawing what looked like a superhero, cape and all. "What I do isn't very exciting, mostly just paperwork and meetings." It was my standard response, polished through years of practice. Simple, boring, forgettable. Julian frowned, clearly disappointed. "Don't you get to arrest bad guys or anything?" Behind us, Uncle Leo's laughter boomed over the sound of sizzling meat. "Kid's got a point, Eli. What kind of government work doesn't involve at least a little excitement?" I straightened up, feeling the familiar weight of the leather case tucked inside my jacket pocket. "The quiet kind, Uncle Leo. The kind that keeps everyone safe." As I spoke, I noticed Danielle across the patio, her perfectly manicured hand touching Miguel's arm as she whispered something in his ear. Her other hand held a sealed envelope, cream-colored, expensive paper. Business, from the look of it. The kind of business that happened at family gatherings when people thought no one was watching. I filed the observation away, along with a dozen others I'd already collected in the 5 minutes since my arrival. Old habits, occupational hazard. "Well," Carmen said, squeezing my shoulder, "exciting or not, I'm glad you're here." If only she knew just how exciting my work was about to become. The afternoon heat shimmered off the pool deck as I found myself cornered by a semicircle of relatives, all clutching their drinks and wearing expressions of polite curiosity mixed with barely concealed pity. Aunt Rosa led the interrogation with the enthusiasm of a talk show host. "So, Eli," she said, adjusting her oversized sunglasses, "what exactly do you do at this government job of yours? Are you like a clerk or something?" I took a measured sip of my beer, buying time. "I work in investigations, financial crimes division." "Oh." Her face fell slightly, as if I'd just told her I cleaned sewers for a living. "That sounds very safe." Uncle Leo wandered over, already 3 beers deep, judging by his loose grin. "Hey, at least he's got job security, right? Government benefits, pension, all that boring stuff." He slapped my back with enough force to make me step forward. "Not like these crazy entrepreneurs." As if summoned by the word, Miguel appeared beside us, now wearing a satisfied smirk. "Speaking of which, you all need to see this." He gestured toward the outdoor kitchen where a framed piece of art hung prominently, some kind of abstract painting with swirling blues and golds. "Just acquired this from a private collector in Milan. Danielle handled the negotiations herself." The group murmured appreciatively, though I doubted any of them could tell a Picasso from a pizza menu. I watched Danielle across the patio, her blonde hair catching the sunlight as she spoke quietly into her phone. European partnerships, she'd mentioned earlier. Art acquisitions. Private collectors. My investigative instincts hummed quietly in the background, filing details away like a computer cataloging data. "Must be nice," Carmen said softly beside me, "having money to throw at pretty things." Miguel's laugh was sharp. "It's called investing, sis. Building wealth. Creating a legacy." His eyes found mine. "Some of us can't be content with safe little paychecks forever." Uncle Leo's elbow collided with my shoulder as he gesticulated wildly, telling some story about his neighbor's escaped iguana. The impact sent his beer cascading across my chest, soaking through my button-down shirt and onto my jacket. "Ah, shit," Leo laughed, completely unbothered by the mess. "Sorry, nephew. I get animated when I talk about reptiles." Quote, I looked down at my damp clothes, the smell of beer mixing with the desert heat. "It's fine, Uncle Leo. No worries." "Go get cleaned up," Carmen suggested, pointing toward the poolside cabana. "There are towels in there." I made my way to the shaded area, grateful for a moment away from the crowd. The conversations continued behind me. Laughter, boasting, the clink of ice in glasses. I slipped off my wet jacket and hung it on a chair, then grabbed a towel from the cabinet. "Uncle Eli?" Julian's voice made me turn. He'd followed me, his sketch pad tucked under his arm. "Can I see your jacket? It looks like it has secret pockets." Before I could respond, his small fingers were already exploring the jacket's interior, fascinated by the multiple compartments I'd had specially tailored. His curiosity was innocent enough, but my heart rate spiked as I realized what he might find. "Julian, maybe you shouldn't." Too late. His hand emerged, holding a worn leather case, and as he turned it over to examine it, the case fell open. My FBI badge and credentials tumbled onto the grass, the gold shield catching the afternoon sun like a beacon. Julian stared down at it, his mouth forming a perfect O. "Are you a cop or something?" The words weren't loud, but they might as well have been shouted through a megaphone. Miguel, who'd been walking past with a fresh drink, stopped mid-stride. His eyes locked onto the badge lying in the grass, and for a moment the entire world seemed to pause. "What the hell?" Miguel bent down and picked up the badge, examining it like it might be a toy or a prop. His face cycled through confusion, disbelief, and something that looked almost like betrayal. "FBI? Eli, what is this?" The conversations around us began to fade as heads turned in our direction. I could feel the weight of 23 pairs of eyes settling on me, waiting for an explanation that would change everything. I straightened up, meeting Miguel's stare with steady calm. It's exactly what it looks like. The silence that followed was deafening. The silence stretched like a taut wire until Miguel finally laughed, but it was the kind of laugh that had sharp edges. This is some kind of joke, right? You bought this online or something. I reached out my hand. Can I have that back, please? Miguel turned the badge over in his palm, studying the federal seal, the official markings, my photograph embedded in the credentials. His smile faltered. Jesus Christ, Eli, this is real. Quote. Whispers rippled through the gathered family like wildfire. Aunt Rosa pushed through the crowd, her face flushed with indignation. What's all this commotion about? Our little desk clerk here, Miguel said, his voice dripping with sarcasm, apparently works for the FBI. The gasps were audible. I watched as Danielle, who'd been approaching from across the patio, suddenly stopped. Her phone slipped from her hand, but she caught it with reflexes that seemed a little too practiced. Our eyes met for just a moment before she turned and walked quickly toward the house. FBI? Aunt Rosa's voice pitched higher. Eli, what does this mean? Are you some kind of spy? I work in financial crimes, I said evenly, taking my badge back from Miguel's reluctant fingers. White-collar investigations. Money laundering, fraud, that sort of thing. Carmen appeared at my elbow, her face pale but determined. How long? She asked quietly. 7 years. Telling and preparing this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now back to the story. Uncle Leo whistled low. Well, I'll be damned. No wonder you always seemed like you were listening to something the rest of us couldn't hear. Miguel's jaw tightened. So what? You've been lying to us this whole time? Pretending to be some nobody while I'm actually what? I interrupted. Serving my country? Protecting people from criminals? The word criminals hung in the air like smoke. Miguel clapped his hands together with forced enthusiasm, the sound cutting through the tension like a knife. All right, everyone. Enough of this drama. Let's get back to what we came here for. Family, food, and fun. His smile was wide, but didn't reach his eyes. Eli's got his secrets. Fine. We've all got our little mysteries, right? The crowd began to disperse reluctantly, drawn by Miguel's magnetic personality and the promise of more drinks. But I could feel their glances, the whispered conversations that would follow me for the rest of the afternoon. The damage was done. Carmen touched my arm gently. Can we talk? Inside? I nodded, grateful for the escape. We made our way through the sliding glass doors into Miguel's air-conditioned living room, where the sounds of the party became muffled background noise. The space was all white leather and chrome, with floor-to-ceiling windows that offered a view of the chaos we'd just left. 7 years, Eli? Carmen's voice was soft but hurt. We've had Christmas dinners, birthdays, family emergencies, and through all of it, you've been living this double life? I sank into one of Miguel's expensive chairs, suddenly feeling the weight of every lie I'd told, every deflection, every moment I'd let them think less of me. It wasn't supposed to be forever. Deep cover operations have a shelf life. Deep cover? She sat across from me, leaning forward. What does that mean exactly? I looked out the window where Julian was now showing his drawing to Uncle Leo, both of them laughing. It means I've spent years building an identity, making contacts, gaining trust in circles where criminals operate. Financial crimes aren't solved from a desk, Carmen. You have to get inside their world. Her face went pale. Inside their world. Like, here? Our family? I didn't answer directly, but the silence was confirmation enough. Oh, God! She pressed her hands to her cheeks. Miguel's business. Danielle's art deals. The European partnerships. I can't discuss specifics, I said carefully, but my work here isn't finished. Through the window, I watched Uncle Leo gesture wildly as he told some story, his beer sloshing dangerously close to the edge of his glass. You know what's funny? He was saying. loud enough for us to hear through the glass. Danielle's always getting these weird art shipments at odd hours. Last week, I saw a truck at their warehouse at midnight. Who moves paintings in the middle of the night? Carmen and I exchanged glances. Uncle Leo's drunken observations had always been dismissed as rambling, but now his words carried different weight. "Eli," Carmen whispered, "are they in trouble?" Before I could answer, Miguel's face appeared at the window, his expression dark as he watched us talking. Behind him, Danielle emerged from the house, her phone pressed to her ear, and her face tight with what looked like panic. "We need to leave soon," I heard her tell Miguel. "Something's come up." The tipping point had arrived. I excused myself from Carmen with a squeeze of her shoulder and walked casually toward my car, maintaining the facade of someone just getting something from their vehicle. But my heart was pounding as I slipped into the driver's seat and pulled out my encrypted phone. The familiar weight of it in my hand was reassuring, a tether to the world where I wasn't just the family disappointment. "Hernandez," came the crisp voice of my supervisor after 2 rings. "It's Navarro. I need a priority check on a subject." I kept my voice low, eyes scanning the rearview mirror to make sure no one had followed me. Danielle Chen Navarro, married name, works with luxury imports, specifically art and fashion, suspected connection to the Milan ring. The sound of fingers flying across a keyboard filtered through the phone. "Hang on. Jesus, Eli, this is your sister-in-law. Brother-in-law's wife." The distinction felt important somehow. "What do you have?" "She's been on our peripheral surveillance list for 3 months. Customs flagged several of her shipments. Discrepancies in declared values. Suspicious routing through shell companies. We've been building a case but didn't have enough for an arrest warrant." I watched through the windshield as Miguel moved through the party, his forced smile growing more strained by the minute. "She knows. Something spooked her." "Your cover?" "Blown. Family gathering went sideways." I rubbed my temples, feeling the beginnings of a headache. "She's preparing to leave. You need to move fast." "Eli, you know the protocol. You're too close to this now. We'll have to pull you out and—" "No." The word came out sharper than I intended. "I'm the only one in position. Give me a few more hours." A pause. "This is personal now. Your judgment could be compromised." Through the car window, I saw Julian running toward the house, tears streaming down his face. Carmen was chasing after him, her expression frantic. In the background, Miguel's voice was rising, though I couldn't make out the words. "My judgment is fine," I said into the phone. "But this family is about to tear itself apart, and an international money laundering operation is about to slip through our fingers. Which matters more to the Bureau?" Another pause. "You've got 4 hours. After that, we're pulling the plug and moving in with what we have." I ended the call and sat in the stifling heat of my car, watching my family implode through the windshield. Miguel was now jabbing his finger in Aunt Rosa's direction, his face red with anger. Uncle Leo looked confused and hurt, still clutching his beer like a lifeline. And somewhere in that beautiful, expensive house, Danielle was probably destroying evidence and planning her escape. When I walked back through the gate, Julian was sobbing in Carmen's arms. "Uncle Miguel said Uncle Eli is going to arrest everyone," Julian hiccuped. "Is that true? Are you going to take Mommy away?" 23 pairs of eyes turned to me, and this time, the silence was arctic. I was kneeling beside Julian, trying to reassure him that his mother was safe, when I felt a presence behind me. Danielle's shadow fell across the pool deck, and when I looked up, her expression was unnervingly calm. "Eli," she said, her voice smooth as silk, "could I speak with you privately? There's something in the garage I'd like to show you." Every instinct I'd developed over 7 years of federal work screamed danger, but I couldn't refuse without causing another scene. Julian was already traumatized enough. I nodded and followed her across the patio, noting how she moved with the calculated grace of someone who knew she was being watched. Miguel's 3-car garage was climate-controlled and immaculate, smelling of expensive car wax and leather. Danielle closed the door behind us with a soft click, and the sounds of the chaotic barbecue became muffled and distant. "Beautiful cars," I said, gesturing toward Miguel's collection. a Tesla, a vintage Mustang, and a BMW that probably cost more than most people's houses. Miguel does love his toys. She moved to stand near the workbench, her fingers trailing along the polished surface. But you're not here to admire his collection, are you, Agent Navarro? The use of my title sent a chill down my spine. I'm here for a family barbecue. Are you? She tilted her head, studying me like I was an interesting specimen under a microscope. Because from where I'm standing, it looks like you're here to destroy lives. Starting with your own families. I kept my expression neutral, though my hand instinctively moved closer to my jacket. I don't know what you're talking about. Danielle laughed, a sound like breaking crystal. Please, I've known what you were since the moment you walked into our world. Did you really think we were that naive? That sloppy? The admission hit me like a physical blow. How long? Long enough. She picked up a wrench from the workbench, turning it over in her manicured hands. Long enough to prepare for this moment. Long enough to protect what matters. And what matters to you, Danielle? Family, she said, and for the first time, something genuine flickered in her eyes. Miguel's future. This family's reputation. Things that your little investigation could destroy. Quote, she set the wrench down with deliberate care. So here's what's going to happen. You're going to tell your supervisors that this was all a misunderstanding, that your family barbecue got out of hand, but there's nothing here worth pursuing. You're going to request reassignment to another case. And if I don't... Her smile returned, cold and predatory. Then, tomorrow morning, Miguel will receive some very interesting information about his brother's real activities. Not just the FBI work, but the specifics of what you've been investigating. How you've been using family gatherings to gather intelligence. How you've betrayed every confidence, every shared moment, every expression of love this family has ever shown you. The garage seemed to grow smaller around us. You're threatening to expose an active federal investigation. I'm threatening to expose a family betrayal. She stepped closer, and I could smell her expensive perfume mixed with something sharper. Fear, maybe, or desperation. Miguel worships you, you know, despite everything. He'd be devastated to learn what you really think of him. My phone buzzed in my pocket, probably Hernandez checking on my status, but all I could think about was the broken look in Julian's eyes, the way Carmen had defended me, even when she didn't understand. The years of Christmas mornings and birthday parties where I'd smiled and lied and collected evidence against the people who loved me. I need time to think. You have until midnight, Danielle said, already moving toward the door. After that, everyone learns the truth about Agent Eli Navarro. When I emerged from the garage, the atmosphere had shifted from uncomfortable to toxic. Miguel stood at the center of the patio like a man possessed, his expensive shirt wrinkled and sweat-stained despite the desert heat. His voice carried across the yard with the force of years of pent-up resentment. You want to know what I think? He shouted, gesturing wildly with his drink. I think my little brother has been playing us all for fools. Sitting there at every family gathering, judging us, taking notes, pretending to be the humble failure while he's really... Miguel, please, Aunt Rosa interrupted, her voice strained. Lower your voice. The neighbors. Fuck the neighbors. The profanity from Miguel's mouth shocked everyone into silence. He never swore in front of family. This is about loyalty. This is about trust. This is about my own brother lying to my face for 7 years. I walked steadily toward the confrontation, feeling every eye in the yard track my movement. Julian was pressed against Carmen's side, his earlier tears replaced by wide-eyed fear. Uncle Leo had set down his beer and was watching with the intensity of someone sobering up fast. Miguel, I said quietly, let's talk about this calmly. Calmly? He laughed, a sound like breaking glass. You've been investigating us, haven't you? Our business, our friends, our lives. What kind of man spies on his own family? The accusation hung in the air like smoke. I could feel the weight of everyone's expectations, their need for me to deny it, to explain it away, to make this all make sense. I investigate financial crimes, I said simply. Nothing more, nothing less. Bullshit, Miguel's glass went flying past my head, ice cubes scattering across the pool deck. "You think we're criminals? Your own family!" That's when Carmen stepped forward, her voice cutting through Miguel's rage like a blade. "Stop it!" The words were quiet but carried absolute authority. "Just stop." She moved to stand beside me, her presence solid and unwavering. "If Eli says he's doing his job, then he's doing his job. And if you're innocent, Miguel, then you have nothing to worry about." The simple logic of it seemed to deflate Miguel's fury momentarily, but then his face twisted with something darker. "Innocent?" He looked around the yard, at all the faces watching him. "She's taking his side. They're all going to take his side." His voice dropped to a whisper that somehow seemed louder than his shouting. "My own family thinks I'm a criminal." In the sudden quiet that followed, I realized Danielle was nowhere to be seen. The sliding glass door to the house stood open, but she had vanished like smoke. The investigation had just entered its final phase, whether I was ready or not. The barbecue was winding down like a broken clock, guests making awkward excuses and slipping away into the desert evening. I found Carmen by the pool, helping Julian pack up his art supplies while keeping one eye on Miguel, who sat slumped in a chair nursing what looked like his 8th beer. "She's gone," Carmen said without looking up. "Danielle left about 10 minutes ago in her Mercedes." My heart rate spiked. "Did she take anything with her?" "A briefcase and what looked like a laptop bag." Carmen finally met my eyes. "Eli, what's really happening here?" Quote, Before I could answer, Uncle Leo stumbled over, his earlier joviality replaced by something sharper. "You know," he said, swaying slightly, "I've been thinking about those midnight art deliveries. Danielle always said they were European pieces, but the trucks had Arizona plates." I pulled out my phone, fingers flying across the encrypted text interface. "Uncle Leo, where exactly did you see these trucks?" "Storage facility off the I-10. Desert View Storage. She's got a unit there, number 47. I only know because I helped Miguel move some of his car parts there last year." Carmen grabbed my arm. "You're going after her, aren't you?" I looked at my phone. Hernandez had texted back, "Surveillance team en route to intercept. Stand down." But I knew the Bureau protocols. By the time they got warrants and assembled a team, Danielle would be gone. The storage unit would be cleaned out, the evidence destroyed, and months of investigation would evaporate into the desert heat. "I have to," I said, already heading toward my car. "Carmen, can you?" "I'm coming with you." Her voice brooked no argument. "Julian, stay with Uncle Leo. We'll be back soon." "Carmen, this is dangerous. You don't understand." "I understand that my brother has spent 7 years protecting people from criminals, and I understand that one of those criminals has been sitting at our family table." She was already walking toward my car. "I also understand that you're going to need someone who knows where that storage facility is, because Uncle Leo's directions after 8 beers aren't exactly GPS quality." We drove through the darkening desert in tense silence, the lights of Phoenix spreading out behind us like fallen stars. My phone buzzed constantly. Texts from Hernandez ordering me to wait for backup, updates from surveillance teams trying to track Danielle's Mercedes. "There," Carmen pointed ahead to a cluster of low buildings surrounded by chain-link fencing. "Desert View Storage." I parked across the street and pulled out a small pair of binoculars from my glove compartment. Unit 47 was at the far end of the complex, and Danielle's silver Mercedes sat parked directly in front of it, engine still ticking as it cooled. "She's still here," I whispered. Through the binoculars, I could see her silhouette moving inside the unit, loading boxes into what looked like a different vehicle, a white panel van with no windows. My phone rang. Hernandez. "Backup is 5 minutes out," he said. "Do not approach the subject." But as I watched, Danielle closed the storage unit and climbed into the van. In 5 minutes, she'd be gone forever. "Understood," I lied, and hung up the phone. 3 days later, I sat in my small downtown apartment, staring at the final report on my laptop screen. The arrest had been clean. Danielle taken into custody without incident. The storage unit filled with enough evidence to dismantle the entire Milan-Phoenix money laundering pipeline. 17 arrests across 3 countries, $63 million in recovered assets. A successful operation by any measure. So why did it feel like such a profound loss? My phone had been silent since Sunday night. No calls from Miguel, no texts from Aunt Rosa. The family WhatsApp group that usually buzzed with daily updates and photos had gone dead. I'd broken something fundamental, and I wasn't sure it could ever be repaired. A knock at my door interrupted my brooding. Through the peephole, I saw Carmen standing in the hallway, holding Julian's hand. The boy clutched something wrapped in brown paper. "We brought you something," Carmen said when I opened the door. She looked tired but determined, the way she'd looked when she decided to help me track Danielle. Julian stepped forward and handed me the package. Inside was a framed drawing, a figure in a suit with a badge pinned to his chest, standing protectively in front of a group of smaller figures. At the bottom, in careful 10-year-old handwriting, Agent Uncle Eli, Protector of Families. "I told him what you really do," Carmen explained, settling onto my couch. "Not the scary parts, just that you help keep bad people from hurting good people." Julian climbed up beside her. "Mom says Uncle Miguel is sad because he didn't know you were a hero." I sat down across from them, the drawing heavy in my hands. "I'm not sure I'm anyone's hero, buddy." "Carmen says you might get a new assignment," Julian continued, immune to adult complications. "Will you still come to birthday parties?" The question hit harder than I expected. I don't know if I'll be invited to birthday parties anymore. Carmen leaned forward, her voice gentle but firm. "Eli, what you did was right. It was hard, and it hurt, but it was right. Miguel will understand that eventually. Aunt Rosa, too. And if they don't, that says more about them than it does about you." My encrypted phone buzzed on the coffee table. A new assignment, cross-border financial fraud, based in San Diego. A chance to start over, to build a new identity, in a new city where no one knew Agent Eli Navarro or his complicated family. "I have to go away for a while," I said quietly. "New case." Julian's face fell. "Will you catch more bad guys?" "I hope so." "Will you come back?" I looked at Carmen, who nodded encouragingly. "Yes, I'll come back." As they prepared to leave, Carmen hugged me tightly. "You know what the hardest part about having integrity is," she whispered. "It's that sometimes you have to choose between being right and being loved. But you chose right, Eli. And that matters." After they left, I placed Julian's drawing on my dashboard and started packing. The work continued, and somewhere out there, other families needed protection from criminals who hid behind smiles and Sunday barbecues. I drove away from Phoenix with the drawing visible in my rearview mirror, a reminder that being seen, truly seen, was worth any price. Up next, we have 2 more incredible stories that are waiting for you. Just click the image you want to watch, and it will take you there. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to subscribe. It would mean a lot.